the first game we look for, Robbie? Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away? Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away?
What's happening, people? Welcome to a special edition of Tottenham Away. We're going to go live for about 25-30 minutes, and then we're going to move to our second stream, our actual Friday night live show. But we've got two Geordies in the house. We've got Steve Machala. We've got Andy Bell. How you doing, guys? You all right? Everyone good?
I'm good.
What are you saying? Thank you.
Good to have you both on. Hopefully both the boys will be joining us for the show we do after Newcastle versus Spurs and all the other matches for this weekend that we'll be covering. But look, let's get straight into it because we don't have too much time. We'll just quickly say hello to a few people in the comments as always. Big up to Minerals. How you doing? We've got Zach in the house. We've got Rob. How you doing, Rob? Hope you're well. William, Mark Swifty. We've got Tom. We've got Richard. We've got David P. LA007. Mark Swifty again. We've got JJ. How you doing, guys? Sorry, I'm rushing through the comments tonight. It's just we haven't got these two guys for long for this segment of tonight. So I just want to really get into it. And basically, Steve, you and I have been chatting about what's going on at Spurs and the frustration with the fans between the board, Levy, Enoch, the owners, and Tottenham. And I guess our situation was slightly different to yours because at Newcastle, you lot weren't doing well. You weren't competing, and it was just a bit of a shit show in general. There was a lot of fan discontent. I don't know what the real full-blown story is about Mike Ashley, like you guys can tell us.
Oh, there's
a lot. Well, listen, I'm going to let you guys talk about it. Yeah. At Tottenham, it's a bit different. We've actually, off the field, we're a success. The stadium, the academy, the training facilities, the money, the money we're spending, we cannot complain. Our issue is how all of that is failing to improve what's going on the field. Now, in 2010, under Harry Redknapp, so we're going back 13 years, we got top four. So we became like a Champions League team. We haven't moved from that. And that's where our frustration is because we're spending more and we've got all this amazing infrastructure. And all we do is announce the latest concert, the latest sponsorship deal. We've got future plans for NFL and all. It gets to a point where it's so business and so corporate at Tottenham. We, as fans, we've just become disheartened with what is going on the football pitch. So our frustration is a bit different to yours, but as a fan base, we can't seem to unite on what we want and what action to take and what we want out of it. So I just wanted to ask you guys, what actually happened with Mike Ashley? And as a fan base, what did you guys do? What united you and what action did you guys take? Because you've got what you wanted now. You've got a new owner and looks like they're going to back your manager and take you places in the future.
Do you want to go, Steve?
Yeah, so for me, from the outside, I had to learn about all this stuff. Obviously, Andy is a local, knows a hell of a lot more than I do. But for me, what it was is that obviously, Sir John Hall sold the club to Ashley about 2007, 08. Around, I think that was the first, or was the first. What?
Yeah, Freddie Shepherd left. So John Hall had, my understanding, is a majority shareholder. Mike Ashley bought it. And I think if you're going to talk about the Mike Ashley era, you've got to start at the beginning because he was very clever in what he did. He was driving around in an old Ford Sierra, knew what the people up north were like, thought that would buy into him. He was going down Newcastle, blue bamboo, buying everybody a drink with his top off, waving it around his head. And we're thinking, we've got a rich owner here. We're going to take strides forward. And in his defence, we did have a good season. If you remember, we finished fifth. We had Papa Cisse, Dembaba, Tabai, Chiotti. We had Colatini at the back. That was the problem, though. We finished fifth and we didn't put our foot down and capitalise on it. And we never did from that point. I think Mike actually got complacent, realised that the money was coming in from the TV, and if he could just keep us ticking over and keep us in the Premier League, then that would happen. But unfortunately, though, when you go into the following season, only signing Vernon and Anita, and you get relegated because as you said, still everyone's going forward. And as you said there with Tottenham, as an outsider, you look at Tottenham and you think, well, where's it going wrong? You've got the money, you've got the. I mean, I hear off Lee all the time. The stadium is amazing. You've got, from what it sounds like, Daniel Levy is a very astute businessman. It just seems to be recruitment. But Mike Ashley, and the main problem is it took a long time to get everyone united at Newcastle to then drive them out. Problem was no one wanted to buy.
Andy, let me ask you two questions on that, right? Steve, feel free to just jump in, right?
Yeah.
Number one, what was the trigger? What was that turning point where enough was enough for the majority of fans? And number two, what did you do as fans? What was the action you guys took? Or the types of
So there was the stadium name, yeah. I think it was the stadium name change, I'll be honest. I think that was the holy grail for Newcastle. It was with Cathedral on the Hill. You can't change the name of the stadium. Not it was Soccer Sports Arena, whatever it was now. I took no notice, if I'm honest. I lost a lot of love into the club at that time. But the Magpie Group, I don't know if you recall, I think that was the start of things. They got about 1,000 people in protest. I think that was 2021, around about August time.
So it's only a few years ago. Only a few years ago, really.
Yeah.
You guys.
I think that was the point when he realised he had to get out. There was many protests before that, but I think that was the first time when I think he was ready to cut his losses. And if he wasn't to make much money out from the sale, then he would take it. We've heard many times that there was interested parties in the club, but I really don't think he was happy to sell the club. When we were in the Premier League, I really don't think he wanted to sell the club because he knew he was going to get that guaranteed income if we stayed up. But I think the Magpie Group and things like War Flags, there was all sorts of different groups got involved. There was a march through Newcastle, went up to the stadium. And then you had just like general things, people not going to games. I've never known it. I went to the Newcastle United Man U match when Matty Longstaff scored, and I went last moment. You don't get a ticket at Newcastle last minute when we're playing Man United at home. That's how desperate things got.
It's kind of getting like that now at Spurs. We've got the Enoch out, Levy out group. We've got Change for Tottenham group. We've got the Spurs Supporters Trust who have tried to email the club and get some answers. And you're now beginning to find it's a lot easier to get tickets. But we still haven't had a mass protest, a big boycott. We haven't had this big kind of exodus. One win and everyone wants to go to the next game. We're kind of still in that phase where we haven't given up. And I think as we get to that stage, I mean, look, I guess if we went from White Hart Lane, they changed the name to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I guess if they changed it to the North London Arena, maybe we'd be like, whoa, hold on, not even Tottenham, not even White Hart Lane, maybe. So we haven't quite had that moment that's triggered all the fans, but it's coming. It's coming because, like you said, if you stay still, everyone else catches up with you. And right now, we're about to see Aston Villa and Brighton potentially overtake us. Potentially, I say. Yeah. But I don't think we're getting top four this year. How did it get toxic with you guys up there? Or really?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you hear people say genuinely mean if Mike Ashley was to walk past them in Newcastle, certain crowds he might not have come away with, and not that I condone that at all. But yeah, mate, it was vicious. I mean, we had protests at the stadium, then we had a walkout. I think it was against, I can't remember the walk. I think it was a few years before the takeover, but we had a walkout where we left the game. There was times when people did a boycott. I think that was about a year before we sold the club. Yeah, I mean, the problem that you've got is everyone will always say, even outsiders will say, Geordies are a passionate lot. And the life got sucked out of Newcastle, not just the football club. You can see from the new owners, it's not just a case of we're winning football games now. They're investing money into the local area. They're helping food banks. They're helping charities for autistic children. They're doing all sorts. Mike Ashley wouldn't have done that. And he needs to learn that in order to be successful at Newcastle, you have to embrace the culture. I totally understand them trying to run a business and not get into debt and, things like that. But, selling your best players and then not replacing them like Andy Carroll, for example, when you're robbing Liverpool of 35 million and you're not investing it back into the squad, and you're selling a local lad as well. You don't do things like that. I worry for Tottenham if they sell Harry Kane, but that could go either way. That could either look when you sold Gareth Bale. You know, in the long run, it probably did use a favour in the sense that you reinvested in the squad, and I think the following season you just went and challenged Leicester. So,
well, actually, we wasted the Gareth Bale money. We went and bought 7 players. The only one that worked out good was Ericsson. We bought players like Capoue, Chichariles, who else?
Lamella.
Lamella. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't remember who we spent the money on, but the only one, I think Paulinho was another one. But Ericsson was the only one that really turned out well. The rest were just shocking. So, yeah, but you see, Andy, this is our issue at Spurs. It's not that we don't spend money, and it's not that we don't try. It's we badly mismanage the money, and it's now come out over a series of years. Managers, after they've left the job or after they've been fired, they're saying, "Well, look, I asked for this, I got that. I asked for those 2 players, I got those 2 players." I was told one thing, something else happened. It's the owner or the chairman interfering in football stuff, and that's what's messed up. I mean, look, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever had a manager at your club that gets you to a cup final, and 5 days before the final you sack him to put a 29-year-old kid who hasn't got coaching badges in charge against Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, that was simply Daniel Levy pushing his chest out. That wasn't. It was ego. That was his ego. That he should come out at some point and apologise to Tottenham fans for that. That's clearly what that was. You don't sack Jose Mourinho of all managers before a cup final, because one thing he's good at is winning cup finals.
Well, and he went straight to Roma, won the European Conference League, their first ever European trophy, and now he's got them to the Europa Cup semi-final, and they're 3rd in the league. It's like, the problem is, do you know what the biggest problem is? Let me know what it was like up at Newcastle. We've got a lot of fans that defend the owner, and the reason they defend them is because look at our stadium, look at our training ground. We used to be mid-table. At least we get top 4, top 6. Look how far we've come, and they keep going there. But the problem is, on the field, we're not winning anything. Not that we've got a divine right to, but we don't really compete for it like we used to. And we pay the highest prices in world football. We are the most expensive club to support in world football. So did you have that situation where you had some fans that were scared of the unknown and didn't want to turn on the owner, and other fans that were, no, he's got to go, enough's enough? Or was it a case of the majority of you actually wanted him gone?
So
before we got relegated, sorry, go on, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, so from my perspective, because I've only been a fan since 17, 18, pretty much everyone was on the – I didn't meet any Newcastle fan that defended Ashley or any of that. So by then it was – I like Andy said, I think the second relegation just really – and for me, what I think the turning point was probably the Europa League debacle, right? Ashley didn't actually want to play in the Europa League because he couldn't advertise his goddamn Sports Direct. That was literally like he literally tried to pull us out of that competition, legit, because he couldn't advertise his stupid brand. Like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
that's fact.
There was a. I'll send you the link if you're interested or whatever. I think it's on the Chronicle or something like that, Newcastle Chronicle. And it was this story of Ashley wanted to do that. I'm pretty sure it was a former player talking about it too. He was just. There were a bunch of shitty things that Ashley also did.
So he didn't want your club. He didn't want your club to qualify for Europe because he wouldn't be allowed to sponsor his brand in the stadium.
He threatened to pull Newcastle out of the competition if he wasn't in some way able to.
Yeah,
that's insane.
I know.
This is a guy that wouldn't get his steam off his. You know what, mate. I mean, this. Some people get into football for the right reasons. He simply got into football for pocket. So I think the problem is. So go on.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say this guy is such a cheapskate that he literally, women who worked for Sports Direct, he wouldn't actually allow them certain women days off while they were pregnant. So they ended up giving birth in the fucking bathrooms of
I
Sports
didn't hear
Direct.
that. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, it's true.
I know that he was. I know that he was stocking them out 15-minute wages if they were anything more than a minute late for the shift.
Yeah.
He was stocking them 15 minutes pay. It was all over the national press, and he tried to justify it by saying, "Well, I'm not Santa Claus," so they hear it. I mean, yeah,
it's the same guy that Gutierrez. He tried to let Gutierrez go because he was dealing with testicular cancer.
I think that was one of the moments when I was asked earlier on it, where a lot of United fans that might not have been verbal against Ashley, once you do that to a football player that plays for this club and did his best for this club, just sack him while he's got testicular cancer. I mean,
the guy who scored the goal on the last day against West Ham to keep us up.
That was after he came back as well.
To be fair, I think it's just inhumane. We try. I think we were one of 2 clubs that tried to furlough the staff during COVID as well, and that went bad. The fans kind of forced that to be reversed. I just want to quickly just say to Jamie D, thank you for watching the show, buddy. The board did interfere with Lo Celso because we refused to buy Bruno Fernandes, and the extra £10 million we refused to pay. We ended up wasting it on Jack Clark, so we ended up with a player we didn't actually want. It was Bruno Fernandes we want. As for Ndombele, we spent 65 million on him, but then we sacked the manager 2 months later that we bought him for. So I see where you're going, but you got to look at the bigger picture of what happened around those players as well. Did you have any issues in terms of managers wanting certain players and Mike Ashley interfering, or did he ever meddle in transfers? Was he in charge of transfers, or did you have I can't remember. Did you have a football director?
It's well known at the beginning of It's well known at the beginning of the reign. Kevin Keegan had arranged for Sammy Hyypiä to sign on a year deal on a free, and Luka Modric was at the Vermont Hotel in Newcastle Quayside. This is well known, as many people think Newcastle released this. And one of Derek Lambias's cronies walked in and went, "You're good, but you're not that good. So this is the offer we're going to make you. Either take it or leave it." The following, that was on the Saturday or Friday. On the Wednesday, he went and played England off the pitch in a European qualifier, and England failed to qualify for the Euros. So, and he ended up going to yourselves. There was another one, I believe, was Eden Hazard. We had opportunity to sign him. Keegan had went to Paris, was sitting in a hotel with him. He was ready to sign, but because of Aubameyang as well, €500,000, €500,000, we wouldn't pay the extra $500,000, and that was signing him for something like £22 million back in the day. So, yeah, definitely there was, and that's why Keegan left. Keegan said, "Look, I can't work with these people. I'm promised one thing and then I'm told something else." So I've always said, if a manager took that job, like Steve Bruce did, he took the job knowing the circumstances that he was getting himself involved in. He knew that he wasn't going to be backed, and then whinge about it. You don't. Do you know what I mean? If you know what the rules are when you get into the job, any idiot could have taken that job and kept us on one of the years. But the following year, I give Steve Bruce some credit. But when you're working under someone like that, no, I couldn't do it.
Can I ask you a question about managers at Newcastle? When it was kind of the job almost became like a poison chalice, or it just became it was beginning to get toxic at your club. Did managers begin to turn you down because they thought, "Do you know what? There's no point in me coming there. There's nothing I can do under this ownership"? Or did you ever struggle to get the managers in, and you had to end up almost taking whatever would say yes to the job?
I know Harry turned it down. Harry Redknapp's admitted that he turned it down when he was in charge of Portsmouth. I think it was not long before he went to yourselves for the second spell. I've heard some Blackburn manager was offered the job at the time. I can't actually remember the name of the manager. Apologies, but I think when you're getting Steve Bruce in charge, mate, you're scraping the barrel. It's obvious that he wasn't ever the first name on. You know, if you had a wish list, Steve Bruce is not going to be on the first page, is he? So the fact that you're on to the third, fourth page, there's plenty of managers not wanting to take the job. Not because it's not a big club, but because of who you're working for.
That's why it was so crazy that Rafa Benitez signed for us also, considering we were going down to the championship. that was a crazy one. I don't know how we got Benitez to join us. That was mental, to be fair.
Probably because he was promised the world, and then 6 months later, I was ripped away from him.
Yeah. Yep.
He was actually a really good signing, I thought, at the time for Newcastle, because he's a seasoned pro. Regardless of what people think of him, he has won trophies. He has got results for some big clubs in Europe as well. So, yeah, I think considering where you were at the time, for sure, Benitez was you done really well. You know what? You did really well to get him. And, yeah, to not keep him was sacrilege, really, wasn't it?
And that was and he left. And he left because of Ashley.
The shameful thing is getting a manager like Rafa Benitez, having a good season, the first season back in the Premier League and not backing him, not having some faith in the manager. And I think if I was in that job and I wasn't being showed any faith as well, I'd walk away. It was just such a shame. I mean, I wasn't a massive fan of Rafa's style of football, but it got results. Yeah. And when you're down there and then your first season back, that's what you need.
Let me quickly ask you guys something. What would you, like, having been through everything you went through with Newcastle and seeing where you are now, two questions. Number one, in fact, I did want to tell, do you think it's the fans that managed to force the change of ownership at Newcastle? Or do you think it was Mike Ashley just felt, you know what, I'm ready to sell? Or do you think you guys kind of forced him to, you kind of pushed him?
Well, like Andy said, Mike Ashley didn't really want to cash out while Newcastle was a Premier League side. If we went down to the championship, when we got sold, then Saudi Arabia probably isn't even stepping into that, to be honest. Sure. They're looking at someone else.
Well, wouldn't they be able to buy you for cheaper then, Steve? Wouldn't you be worth less? Wouldn't it be a cheaper investment?
Yeah, project or risky.
Yeah.
Risky project when you get relegated.
Yeah. So for me, it's like the fans, I mean, we had to try something and we weren't happy. So what do you do when you're not happy? You should vocalize it, right? Because then, like you say about your analogy all the time about the rash, you keep scratching and scratching and scratching. Do something about it. At least attempt. Maybe the attempts don't work, but at least try. You can't bitch and moan when you have, a viral infection and you're rotting away just because you didn't want to get your rash fixed, go to a doctor or something. It's like you need to. We vocalized our anger towards Ashley and the whole debacle that he caused, and it definitely helped.
I think the supporters had a big hand, but I do think that the national press, the other things that were going on with him, like buying Debenhams, buying this, he was, in court a few times for employment reasons, and I think it just got to the point where he was, we weren't having the best seasons, let's be honest. We'd won one game in 19, I think, wasn't it? No, we hadn't won a game, apologies, in 19. And the risk there was we get relegated, I'm going to have to put my hand back in my pocket to get them back in the Premier League, and I don't want to do that again. And the Saudis were there with, let's be honest, I mean, money talks. Everyone's got a price when it comes to stuff like that. And I'd like to think, I don't think this is true, but I'd like to think that he thought, do you know what it is? They've got a good plan. They care about the club. They've got a woman there that's really got a plan, wants to get involved with the local people. If I sell them, maybe I might get some praise in 5 years when they go and win a trophy for picking these, because it's apparent that he could have sold the club before to a Dubai group, but they were a little bit dodgy from what we've heard. So maybe in time we might thank Mike Ashley through gritted teeth, but we might.
Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna struggle to get anything out of me with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think my lips will move when I'm utter it. Yeah.
Guys, one last question before I've got to wrap it up, because we've got to go to our Friday night show, which hopefully both of you will be on. I've just put the link in the private chat for you guys in case you haven't got it already. If you were to start your whole attempts to either get the chairman out, get the owners out, to just change the issues that consistently put your fans into frustration and anger, just feeling detached from their football club, what would you do as a message to Spurs fans? What would you say, like, this is what you've got to do? Because at the moment, we've got protesters, but only 50 people turn up to the protest. And we've got Change for Tottenham, who have decided to write a letter to the chairman. And then we've got the Spurs Supporters Trust, who wrote an email. None of it's working.
And like you said, and the reason why it's not working, 50 people. I'll let Andy go first, though, with the message. Go on, Andy. Sorry.
I think it's a tough one because the circumstances are, you are still having some relative success. Levy could turn around and say, well, look, we're targeting at the moment is to finish in the Champions League spot, and we are potentially on course to do that. Yes, it's going to be hard. But I still think Sunday's a very tough game for us against Hughes. In regards to the fact, I think the main thing is trying to unite the fan groups, get all the fan groups together, rather than sending them separate emails. Them all get together, like have a meeting somewhere, I don't know, like a big club or something where they've got a big hall, and just get all the different groups to, and try and get some representation from Tottenham to say, look, we want to chat about our issues with the club, and maybe you can communicate and delegate with us, and we might know a little bit more what's going on.
The club did reply to the fans, and they said, since we've been here, you get European football. You're it's almost like you're spoilt now, and we spend more money now than we ever do before. Zip it. So, and
you got the pretty stadium and all that. That for me,
is there any significant? Is there any significant action that can be done as a fan base that you feel will really shake them up more than anything else, without obviously burning the place down and having cars flipping on the high street and petrol bombs? Because that's not going to happen, right?
It's not Argentina. Yeah.
All I can suggest is uniting the fans. Uniting the fans or threatening to go and support Arsenal. I'm sure that might move his arse in here, but
turning up with Arsenal shirts.
Just paint them red or something. But I think like the gentleman's just put on in a comment. I mean, not that I would word it that way, but to all these people that aren't happy, if you're able to attend, if they're going to arrange something, or a peaceful protest can work. Let's be honest. There's always going to be the odd few that will take it a little bit further, but sometimes that does work, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, once it becomes violent, then everyone runs away, because no one goes to football for violence. But what about boycotting? How did you find boycotting was something that worked for you guys?
Certainly,
it worked for me. It worked for me, but it didn't work. Obviously, it wouldn't have worked for the club. What you've got to look at is the fans help the players on the pitch, and if you're not at the game, then it's a revolving door, isn't it? I mean, it's going to affect the performance of the players potentially and your results. Then Daniel Levy's going to come out and say, "Come and support. Come on, get behind you." I think there's got to be some level ground that either his representatives have got to contact the groups, and they've got to come to some arrangement and say, "Look, we're going to be a little bit more transparent with the fans, and this is what plans for the future." They haven't got to talk about managers or anything. This is what our plan is.
We've tried that. We're getting nothing. It's almost like they're, be happy with what you got. Listen, guys, I didn't want to cut you off there, but I've got to end this stream. Guys watching, we're going to go live on our other show on the same channel. So just click on the other YouTube channel. It's going to go live right now. It's the Friday Night Live show. Make sure you jump on there, and we'll be going live in just a minute. All right. Steve, Andy, listen, guys, thank you so much for giving up your time just to talk about it. I think we might have to do that again because we never got to go through all of it. Or maybe we can finish off on the next show. But, guys, check us out in about 1 minute on the other platform. We'll be back in just a minute. Take care. We're out of here.
Take care, everyone.
All right.
The first game we look for, Robbie. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away.